Welcome back to Second and Short. It is Friday, January 17th, 2025. I am joined by Luke, as per usual, as we get ready for the NFL Divisional Round. Only 3 more weekends of real football. The Pro Bowl is not real football, but 3 more weekends. This weekend.
Used to be.
Yeah.
Used to be.
Yeah, it used to be. Me and Brock and Jared. Yeah, Brock, and Jared were watching Biggest Hits compilations last night.
Yep.
There were some good Pro Bowl moments. Yeah, the Pro Bowl one against the punter is amazing. Not much going on in baseball this week. We had a couple of things. It is the opening of the window to sign international free agents, which is very exciting. We'll talk about that a little bit more. Should be getting a decision from Roki Sasaki sometime this week, maybe early next week, on where he'll be landing, which is another thing we'll touch on in the MLB portion of the episode. Premier League rolling on. We had midweek matches. Now we have weekend matches. So it's a very busy part of the Premier League calendar that we're in right now. It could definitely affect some teams heading into these big stands, especially when you look ahead and you say, okay, well, these 4 teams that have played there's probably a lot of teams that have played Carabao Cup matches last week in the middle of the week, FA Cup matches in the weekend, Premier League matches in the middle of the week, Premier League matches in the weekend, and then you've got teams going off to play in the Conference League, in the Europa League, and the Champions League. We will be talking about the Champions League because it is back for Matchday 7. So much going on to talk about. The transfer window as well,
heating up.
Certainly starting to see some moves roll in. We probably won't cover too much of it. I think we'll talk about some moves here and there, especially if a team comes up in maybe the Champions League or in our Premier League previews. Maybe next week we could touch on some of that. We'll see. We'll see what the news looks like to see if we can touch on the transfer window. Big ones: Kvishka Kvaratskhelia to PSG, Randall Colomouani to who is it? Juventus. Those are some notable ones I've seen at least. Neymar might be out. They did say that he will not be registered for the second half of the season for the Saudi Pro League. So he can only play in their Asia Cup matches, or whatever that's called, the Asian Champions League or something.
Yeah. Shout out to Neymar for really smart decision makings as far as what club you move to.
Yeah, well, maybe it was smart because if he just holds out, they still owe him $35 million.
Yeah.
Regardless of if he plays or not. So maybe it was smart decision making on his side. Make sure you guys are subscribed here on YouTube, and if you're on the podcast platforms, rate 5 stars, give us a follow. Make sure you like this video and comment, and turn on post notifications. If you missed it on Monday, we had a 3rd and long live stream, a whole lot of fun. Me, Colin, Mike, and Nathan all in here. Unfortunately, the parlay did not hit. I did hit a parlay while we were on there live, just a separate one from the one that I gave to the boys. So that was awesome. I was on quite a dry streak with the parlays, but I bounced back live for everybody to see. So make sure you guys have those notifications on so you know when we're going live. Also, follow us on Instagram because that's the other place where we promote that we're going live. That's the best place to keep up to date with everything we've got going on here. I would say follow us on TikTok. There might be no TikTok to follow us on by the time our Monday episode comes out. So to any of you that found us through TikTok, go follow us on Instagram.
Yeah.
And obviously join the Second Short subreddit r/2nd A&D short. Nathan got his questions in, I believe, 3 hours early. So shout out to Nathan. Even though I was very worried because I texted him this morning and I said, don't forget questions. Radio silence all day, even to this point now. And then I checked right before we were about to hop on, and he did submit the questions. So we've got questions this week. I'm sure if we didn't, I could come up with some topics to talk about. But nonetheless, we've got NFL Divisional Round to start off the show. We're going to talk MLB Offseason, Premier League weekend, Champions League Matchday 7, and then questions time to round things out. Luke, how are you doing?
Oh, I'm great, man. It's school's starting to get into full swing again, and I'm just content with everything.
Yeah, it feels
super happy.
So weird to now be on the outside looking in on that.
Yeah.
Being graduated is a weird feeling. And like I almost feel like I feel like I'm rubbing it in people's faces sometimes. All my friends that are still in school. But I'm not trying to. I think it's just that it is such a weird feeling.
Yeah.
To not be in the same exact position as everybody else. It feels super weird. And I'm, I've got my own things I'm getting used to right now. So don't think that my life isn't changing. Okay. Yeah, I think we're ready to get into the NFL divisional round. It feels so weird to say that, like, we're here. Like, it doesn't even feel right at all. But it is here, and we've got some matchups I'm excited for. Vegas maybe isn't excited for these. A lot of heavy favorites considering we're into the playoffs. But on Saturday, we started off Texans versus Chiefs. The Chiefs, an 8-point favorite at home. I really want to buy in on the Texans. I would love to say that the Texans can pull this off, but it's the Chiefs. It's the Chiefs. It's the playoffs. I think, you can shit on the Chiefs for how this season's gone all you want, but you can't take 15 wins away from them. That's kind of where I'm at right now with this team.
Yeah, and what's weird is the Chiefs going into this playoff game, let's see, their playoff game will be what, January 18th?
18th, yeah.
And the last time we saw their, full squad was against the Steelers on Christmas Day.
Yeah.
So it's kind of weird to talk about them from that aspect. And then I guess going over to the Texans side, I felt like 32-12 against the Chargers was something that you and I definitely didn't expect. I think we both had the Chargers winning. But if the Texans can have another 4, interception game on a quarterback that we've seen throw a lot, like just not a lot of picks this year.
Yeah.
And especially compared to Patrick Mahomes, maybe there's a game there. But I think overall the Chiefs will probably just end up steamrolling the Texans, especially the matchup between Chiefs D-line versus Texans offensive line.
Yeah.
I don't see it bowing well for CJ Stroud or Joe Mixon. So it'll be interesting to watch, but overall I think the Chiefs probably got it.
Yeah, and I will give the Chargers defensive line a little bit of credit in what they did against the Texans, because early on, they did great. They were getting to CJ Stroud early in that game. It's just you can't get to him every time, and when you have players that like Joe Mixon and Nico Collins that are just going nuclear in those games, it's kind of hard to stop it either way. I do think that the Chiefs, you're going to see a lot of Mahomes throwing the ball. If I had to guess, Mahomes is going to throw the ball a lot. The running game has not been particularly fond of the Chiefs at all this season, let alone since Pacheco's injury. He hasn't come back from it very well either. You're going to see the Chiefs throw the ball a lot. And I think for the Texans, you can't come into this scared. You're on borrowed time already at this point in your playoff run. I think D'Amico Ryans knows that. I think CJ Stroud knows that. Play with a chip on your shoulder, but don't act like you're supposed to be here. Act like you want to move on, but don't act like you were supposed to be here, because most people would have said you didn't.
Yeah. That's fair.
Yeah, I haven't seen any significant injury news either for either of these teams. Seems like the Chiefs are pretty healthy, getting that extra week of rest, and then the Texans didn't seem to get too banged up in that game against the Chargers, so injuries shouldn't be too much of a factor, at least recent injuries. Obviously, the Texans have had their fair share of injuries, but nothing different from last week's game. Man, every time I look at this game, I want to say the Texans have what it takes. But does anybody have what it takes? Can anybody do that? I don't really know. I feel like I have to pick the Chiefs in this case.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Chiefs 31-14.
I'm going to go Chiefs 27, Texans 21.
Which I just want to preface, please prove me wrong, Houston.
Yes.
Houston, please prove me wrong.
Yeah.
So
hopefully we don't have a problem. All right, next game on Saturday. Oh, by the way, I guess I'll say what networks these are on, because it's all over the place. ESPN for the 4:30 Texans Chiefs game. And then I believe we're on CBS for Commanders, Lions. I could be wrong.
Fox.
So Fox. Okay. Yeah,
Wrong
Fox.
Fox.
Wrong one. Yeah, 8 p.m. Fox. You got Commanders, Lions. Lions, 9-point favorites. Bigger favorite than the Chiefs or the Texans. Bobby Wagner did not practice Tuesday and Wednesday. That is not
Which
good.
is not good.
Not
he had
good
a
at all.
game in the wild card. He had a
Yeah,
game.
and let me just make things worse for the Commanders. David Montgomery, full participant Tuesday and Wednesday. It's unbelievable. This man had an injury that we assumed he was going to get season-ending surgery on, and he is back for the divisional round.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's amazing what a second opinion
really
will get
is.
you. And I don't even know if they're going to utilize David Montgomery like that. Like, he said he feels really good about his knee. He feels really good about how his body feels right now. But it's not like he's going to go back to a 50-50 carry share with Jahmyr Gibbs.
Yeah.
It's just not going to happen. And Jahmyr Gibbs, I would not want to take the ball out of his hand at all right now. He's absolutely killing it. So,
God, no. Well, he led the league in touchdowns for a running back, right?
I believe so.
I think he had 20.
Yeah, I think all purpose. I don't know if it was just rushing, but I think he had all purpose 20. I could be wrong. It could have been his rushing number, but
yeah,
Jahmyr Gibbs is such a monster.
Going back to it, you need a guy like Bobby Wagner to match up. Match up against that, and I think another alarming thing on the Commanders' defense is I'm going to go ahead and say this, and this hurts me to say, but the Marshawn Lattimore-Mike Evans rivalry is no more anymore after that wild card game, because Mike Evans, despite losing, owned Marshawn Lattimore the entire game.
Yes.
Will Marshawn Lattimore be able to stop Amon-Ra St. Brown? Probably not.
No.
And it's just, you don't have Bobby Wagner to combat the run game. Even if it was just Jahmyr Gibbs, they'd probably have trouble. And then on the passing game, you don't have really a corner. You brought in a corner because that secondary was so beat up and you were getting yammed on, but Marshawn Lattimore's proven that he can get yammed on. So Marshawn's got to step up against Amon-Ra, and the Commanders really need Bobby Wagner to be healthy in this game. Otherwise, it's going to be a long day, because I don't know if Jaden Daniels is going to be able to keep you in this game by himself.
Yeah, that's the biggest factor to me. The Lions have the kind of defense that can stop the Commanders, at least often. Obviously, it's not going to be some kind of crazy shootout, but the Commanders are going to score their points. I know they didn't. Like, that Buccaneers-Commanders game didn't necessarily live up to the shootout potential. The shootout potential that we thought we were going to see from them. But it was still a close game. It still came down to who could stay on the field and score the points, and the Commanders ended up doing it. The Lions are a different monster. The Commanders have to go in this game knowing if we don't score every chance that we get, we might lose. If you mess up one drive in this game, if you throw one interception or lose a fumble one time, it's the difference of probably a touchdown against this team. And that is the hardest part. And you know that your defense is not reliable enough to stop this Lions offense. This Lions offense, to me, against the Commanders' defense, the Lions offense is an automatic 35 points. Wow. Sitting there waiting. 30. Maybe I'll say 31. The Commanders will stop them in field goal territory once, probably.
Yeah.
But the way that they play, sorry, something just pushed my door open. That was the weirdest thing. But the Lions are going to score points. It's just, can the Commanders keep up against this extremely good Lions defense?
And I don't think I don't think they're going to be able to. And then the last point that I wanted to make on the offensive side for the Lions, they're not really like a big play team unless they get a big play where Jahmyr Gibbs just kind of breaks through. They're very short pass and just grind the other defense out through the run game. The Commanders have no pieces to stop that. That defensive line with Daron Payne and Jonathan Allen that you and I kind of raved about when this podcast first started, I don't really think that exists anymore.
No.
I'm not too sure what Daron Payne and Jonathan Allen actually do. And to that point, when you have an offense that's grinding at your defense, they're just going to get tired so fast.
Yeah.
And what that also means is the ball's going to be out of Jaden Daniels' hands for longer because the Lions are taking longer to score. So I'm going to take the Lions in this one. I think it'll be like 35 to 24.
Okay.
Lions.
Yeah, I think that's a reasonable number. Yeah, I think one big thing that I do really like that the Commanders showed off last week is the ability to run the ball. Eckler showed up in some big spots that I wasn't necessarily anticipating, and and his return is huge for that team. And then obviously Jaden Daniels can get it done on the ground as well. He had a bunch of big plays that he made with his legs. But I think one thing that both these teams share is depth at receiver. They're not afraid to throw to anybody. Both of these teams will literally throw to anybody that is on the roster. And that is a big factor for both of them. I think we're going to see some big points. The total right now, 55.5. You don't even see that in the NFL, really. 55.5 is a big total. So I'm going to kind of tail that. And I'm going to take the Lions 31, Commanders 28. I think, like I said, it's going to be the difference of one time that offense gets out there and falls short when they needed to score, and that's going to be the difference.
Okay, yeah.
All right, now we move to Sunday. And may I say, before we talk about either of these games, thank you to whoever made this schedule for Sunday. 3 p.m. and 6:30 p.m. is beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Obviously, I would love for there to be a game to fill my morning hours and early afternoon. But 3 p.m. is so perfect. If there's only going to be 2 games, 3 p.m., because that way it's not like I don't have to sit around and wait for 4:30, and then I also don't have to be up until 11:30 watching the primetime game. In this scenario, I watch football from 3 o'clock to like 9:30. That's awesome. 9:30, 10 o'clock. I still have like an hour to play with when this game's over. Obviously, I will be in the studio recording the podcast episode with Colin and Nathan, but as just a football fan, that schedule's perfect for a 2-game week. Okay, let's start off with the 3 o'clock game on NBC, which just doesn't feel right. NBC should be Sunday Night Football. I know they get different games here and there throughout the year, but like if they're playing on a Sunday, NBC should have the Sunday night game. That's besides the point. Rams, Eagles. The Eagles a 6-point favorite. The Rams showed off some great stuff in that game on Monday night. But I didn't love it. I definitely didn't love it. I think it was a lot more of a Vikings problem than the Rams blowing me away with some big statement victory.
I agree. And you got to think too. Like if I think I'm going to make this comparison. I would say that Jordan Love and Matthew Stafford are very similar quarterbacks.
Yeah, you could say that.
The Rams may have some serious issues with this Eagles secondary. Jordan Love is coming off of 3 picks against them, right?
Yeah.
Well, you scored 27 against the Vikings, but your leading receiver was Tyler Higbee. Puka had an okay game, but Cooper Kupp is a non-factor. We're starting like the dishes washed.
Yep.
Same as Cooper Kupp. I'm gonna go and throw that out there. It hurts, but I don't know. Like I'm just trying to look for ways that the Rams could like win this game and like what matchups I think favor them. A matchup that I think the Rams could make interesting is D-line versus offensive line of the Eagles.
Definitely.
Rams have a beautiful defensive line. Maybe Saquon isn't able to rush for 25 times for like 120 yards against the Rams.
Yeah.
But if he does, the Rams are going to have a lot of problems. And what the Rams are going to have to do is score points. I feel it at like a game where the receivers don't get going. Stafford kind of looks inaccurate and he's getting pressured from everywhere. And I also feel like Kyron also doesn't get it going.
I think
the Eagles as well.
I think if there's anybody that does get it going for the Rams, it would be Kyron in this game. but it's not going to be important. It's going to be early in the game. Maybe he has a drive or two where he can look good. But as soon as the Eagles start putting up points, and if the Rams can't keep up, you can't give the ball to Kyren.
No.
It's just not how it's going to go. And you're going to force Stafford to throw the ball, and he's going to just have to deal with the fact that there's a fantastic defensive line in front of him. There is one of the best middle linebackers in the league this season in Zach Bond standing in the middle of the field or covering your slot receiver or your tight end. Higbee might have a fit with Bond on him this week. Higbee, a limited participant in practice this week with a hip injury, I believe, as well. I do want to give love to Stafford for spreading the ball around against the Vikings, but I would have loved to see Puka have a big game. I would have loved to see Cooper Kupp get a lot of receptions.
Yeah.
I didn't get any of that. I got Tyler Higbee having a show out, like a standout performance. Kyren was pretty damn good on the ground, had some great plays in the passing game as well. Didn't really make like a ton of yardage, but I didn't see the offensive performance from the Rams to say like, oh, this like they're there. Like they are here for this game. The Eagles are too complete. They are way too complete for the Rams to really like, at least for the Rams to just like kill them. The Rams aren't going to show up and win this game by 10 points. They're certainly not going to show up and win this game by like more than one score. If they win this game, it's because it comes down to the wire. And if I had to guess, it's because Jalen Hurts can't pass the ball to win this game for the Eagles. That's what it comes down to. If Saquon has her early success, they put up points. Or even if Jalen Hurts has early success, they put up points. Fantastic. I don't trust Jalen Hurts versus Matthew Stafford, of all people, to win a close game late in the game when you have to throw the ball.
And that's a good point. And if you were done, I would like to continue that by saying if you're the Rams in this first quarter, let's say you win the coin toss, first drive, ideally a touchdown. Eagles get the ball, you need them to punt, and then you need to either kick a field goal to make it 10-0 or score another touchdown to make it 14-0.
Yeah.
Because then that puts pressure, oh shit, we cannot use Saquon. Because, I mean, Jalen Hurts, he is totally fine with throwing like 7 passes a game.
Yeah.
He's that kind of quarterback. So I completely agree with what you said. If the Rams, late in this game find themselves up by 10 or maybe even 1 score, and the Eagles are in a position where they're going to have to throw the ball, I don't know if he can do it.
Yeah.
But then again,
definitely there.
I don't know if the Rams are going to be in that kind of position, though.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
My interesting thing, I do like that you brought up the Rams D-line versus the Eagles offensive line. You have one of the best, if not the best, offensive lines in the league, both running and pass blocking. And then this defensive line sacked Sam Darnold like 9 times and also stopped the run pretty well against Aaron Jones, who's been as consistent as they come this season. They were unreal from both facets of the game, and that is a huge factor. But they can't play it like the Packers did. You can't be afraid to get behind Jalen Hurts. Let the guys in the middle of the field deal with Jalen Hurts if he decides to run, and punish him. Punish him for running. Yeah. But don't be afraid to let him try and make things happen with his legs, because you can stop him. And he's also coming off of an injury. It was a concussion, but like there will be hesitant there. Like there will be some hesitance there, and I think that that's where the Packers went wrong. They were too concerned with not getting behind him, and they couldn't get to him. It's too good of an offensive line to try and just not get at him at all costs. The other thing is, don't start the game like the Packers did. Packers started that game by fumbling the opening kickoff, and the Eagles scored a touchdown on it. That was the decider. That literally decided the game right then and there.
Yeah.
And you can't have special teams mistakes. That is not what's going to work if you're in the playoffs. You cannot have a single special teams mistake if you want to win a game, because that is one thing that you don't really think about. It's not, the number one thing on the bulletin board going into the week is like no mistakes on special teams. But it's so important because one special teams mistake will end your season at this point.
Yeah.
And that's what happened to the Packers because they really could have won that game if they just start off normal. But you start off in the most just deflating way possible by fumbling the opening kickoff and losing the ball.
Yeah, that'll
So
do it.
I think the Rams have what it takes to win this game. I think 6 points is pretty generous to the Eagles as well. I don't think their offense is necessarily high flying. Fucking AJ Brown's reading books on the sidelines because Jalen Hurts can't get him the ball. Like, it's unreal. And if Saquon gets it going, sure, they're amazing. But if he doesn't, or if the Rams put them in a position where you can't utilize Saquon to his maximum abilities, the Eagles are not winning this game.
Yeah.
I'm taking the Rams. I'm doing it. I'm taking the Rams. And
Okay.
I'm going to go Rams 24, Eagles 21. Kind of a low scorer considering these teams, but I think the defenses really really stick out to me in this game.
I'm about to surprise you. I'm going to take the Eagles. It's like the first time I've ever picked against the Rams, I swear, all season long on this podcast. I'm going to take Philly 28-16.
Okay. 16's a bad number.
Yeah.
Bad number if you're a Rams fan. That's a touchdown and 3 field goals. Or 2 touchdowns, a field goal, and a missed extra point. But we don't have to get into that. All right. The best matchup of the week, if you're asking anybody with a brain, is Ravens-Bills. The Ravens are a 1-point favorite on the road, which I don't know how you can make anybody a favorite going on the road to Buffalo. But, you know. The only big injury stuff is Zay Flowers is still yet to practice. He has not practiced at all. Most people are saying even if he doesn't practice, doesn't necessarily stop him from playing on Sunday. This is the playoffs. If you're ready to go, I don't care if you didn't practice. We need you. And what's crazy is that the Ravens didn't need him last week. They still looked really good. So, yeah, if Zay Flowers isn't practicing, that sucks. But that doesn't mean he's not going to go on Sunday night. The only thing on the Bills side that it looks important injury-wise is Ray Davis, limited participant on Wednesday, which is more surprising than anything. I thought for sure he'd be out. He got hit bad. He got rocked on a pass that was just a little bit too far out in front of him from Josh Allen. Got absolutely fucking obliterated by Broncos safety, I think. But he was listed for a concussion, limited participant Wednesday, so trending towards the right direction, but that's not even like a big deal.
I was about to say, because when you got a guy like Ty Johnson who comes in and gives you 9 carries for 44 yards and a crazy sliding touchdown catch, like when he stood up, I immediately noticed the jersey number and I was like, oh my God, that wasn't a wide receiver.
Nope.
I just made that play.
But incredibly impressive body control.
Yeah. Go ahead and just give me Buffalo.
Wow.
There's absolutely no bias with my pick at all.
Of course.
I would love to see the Baltimore Ravens go win the Super Bowl. Who wouldn't? But even against the Steelers, the shitty ass Steelers, you scored a touchdown in the second half. Granted, you didn't have. I mean, we weren't giving them a reason to keep up or keep scoring. But against Buffalo, you're gonna have to play the full game. And Derrick Henry is going to have to be the one to just keep Josh Allen off of the ball, big time. And I guess for the Ravens to win, I think they're going to need a Derrick Henry repeat performance. I don't know if Derrick Henry can have a repeat performance like he did, against the Steelers, because he broke off a lot of big runs.
Yeah,
I don't.
That's
I
just
don't
how
see
he
that.
is, though.
Yeah, but he can get stuffed.
Yes,
from time to time.
Yes.
And I can't see him having a repeat performance where he's breaking off runs like crazy. And then again, Lamar, I think, is kind of more the sure option here. He had a really good rushing game against the Steelers.
Mm-hmm.
I think he'll probably still have a good game against Buffalo.
Yeah.
But I can't see this Buffalo team losing with. It wasn't a bad passing game, but Lamar going 16 for 21, 175 with 2 touchdowns, you're going to need more than that to beat Buffalo.
But I think that like they weren't trying to pass the ball for the whole second half. They were really just feeding Derrick Henry the entire second half. And also, no offense to the Steelers, there was after the first quarter, there was about 0 seconds where I was like, the Ravens are going to lose. Never once did I think the Steelers were getting back in that game. Which is kind of crazy because it stayed kind of close all the way through, but I was not worried whatsoever. And I think that the Ravens kind of know that last week it was kind of about the defense. If you can shut down the Steelers' offense, which isn't necessarily difficult, no offense, but if you can shut down the Steelers' offense, there's not much you'll have to deal with from there. And I think this week, it's more about the offense this week. Your offense has got to score points because the Bills' offense is going to score points. And this one just seems like a race to the finish line. And similar to what we talked about with Texans Chiefs, it's really just about keeping going. Who's going to keep going? Who's going to miss that opportunity? Well, I guess it wasn't Texans Chiefs. We said that it was Commanders Lions. But like, who's going to not mess up the most? And I don't necessarily know because these are two teams that don't really mess up. They haven't at all. At least in the second half of the season, neither of these teams have messed up. And I know, people tried to pull a quick one on everybody with the interception comparison between Lamar and Josh Allen. Josh Allen doesn't fumble the ball like Lamar. Lamar has fumbled the ball a considerable amount of times this season. But these two guys don't really make mistakes when you look across the board, especially this season. And I think it's hard to say like either one of them is going to run away with this. That's for sure. In my mind, you can't see this game being more than 10 points by the end, but it's going to be close all the way through.
Yeah, I wanted to go back as well just to keep beating Baltimore into the ground. The 2 touchdowns that they gave up against Pittsburgh were awful.
Yeah.
And especially like the Steelers on those 2 touchdowns didn't have to drive down the field, which is where Baltimore was finding themselves success. When you make the Steelers actually play offense instead of just giving them a deep ball, we're going to lose the game. Buffalo can do both. They can grind down the field. They can get the deep ball. And the Von Jefferson touchdown was trash on the Ravens defense part. The George Pickens touchdown was trash on the Ravens defense part. Let me go back and repeat what I just said. The Von Jefferson 30-yard touchdown reception against Baltimore's defense. So I really think there's a big chance that Buffalo could end up running away with this game. Also, they didn't have to play against a running game like what James Cook is coming off of.
True.
As well.
That is true.
So I think maybe just because of the opponent that Baltimore played, they might be underprepared. So
maybe.
But then again, you could flip that. The Broncos haven't had running backs all season long.
Yeah. Yeah,
so
the Bills faced no rushing attack last week.
Yeah, exactly. But they played a way better passing offense, and they only let up 7. So I'm going to go ahead and give a score. I'm going to take the Bills 28-21.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's a reasonable score. The total's at 51.5. I'm going to go... Oh, fuck. This is going to be so close. I'm going to go Bills 28, Ravens 27 because of a Justin Tucker missed extra point. That's how I'm feeling. I think kicker might be the difference in this game, unfortunately. Which is crazy to say. Like, Justin Tucker is the biggest question mark on the Ravens right now.
Yeah.
It's
insane. Had to get nerfed somehow.
Absolutely insane.
Justin Tucker.
All right, well, that's the week. Feels so weird. We just talk about 4 games and we're done.
Yeah.
It doesn't even feel right. Yeah, that's all we've got this week. Super excited. Once again, Saturday schedule 4:30 and 8 o'clock. Sunday 3 p.m. 6:30. Those games, and then next week just 2 games to watch. Man, it's gonna be weird. Be
Yeah,
really weird.
what I'm looking forward to the most out of this weekend in the playoffs is I want to see Lamar Jackson on the sideline after he loses again.
You're like really going for the Baltimore hate this week.
He is a really funny child to watch when he loses.
Yeah.
Extremely funny. So
Okay.
yeah, but I'll give it to him. I think probably deserves MVP
Oh yeah.
over anybody else. But
He's there.
Yeah, fuck Baltimore. and fuck the Steelers for that matter. Honestly, fuck them both. So,
it's just fuck the whole AFC North right now.
Yeah, fuck the AFC North.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's move on to baseball. This won't take long, I assure you. We'll start off here. This is kind of some interesting stuff. If Bregman considers moving to a short-term deal, there's some extra teams that might enter the race. The biggest one being the Cubs. Cubs might just go clean house on the Astros this offseason. But yeah, I think Bregman's situation's weird because he's the right age to be able to ask for a long-term deal. Like, he could get 7-8 years on a deal. But I don't know if I'd want that right now. Yes, Bregman's been good, and last year was a great bounce-back season, but he's not the same guy we were seeing in, like, 2017 and, like, or maybe I'm thinking 2018. Either way, he's not the same exact guy we've been seeing. I don't know if I want 8 years of that. Now, I'll give him 3 years with an opt-out after the first year and higher average annual value. And I think that's the idea for the Cubs. They don't want to go long-term because they've got aspirations of other guys that are coming up. They've got Kyle Tucker on their mind, who they just signed to a 1-year extension today to avoid arbitration. I think they want to go long-term with him soon. So you don't want to put all your eggs in the Bregman basket right now. He's not the guy in that franchise or, potentially in that franchise that you want to kind of hitch your wagon to. There's other people, but they still are a very interesting place to be because they're in a division where it's not necessarily difficult to win the division. You just got to win like 85 games. And for some reason, nobody can fucking do that. So the Cubs is a team where if you go, you've got a chance. It's a lot harder to get into the playoffs if you're in Boston. Tigers, I don't know, because I doubt the AL Central is going to be nearly as good, but maybe they will be. There's no telling. But yeah, I think I like Bregman to the Cubs because it makes sense for the Cubs. Bregman gets the high AAV, and let's say he goes for 1 year. They miss the playoffs. He says, fuck you, see ya. And he sees that the Red Sox have made a turn for the better. Well, then go to Boston. Why not?
Yeah.
I think that would be the best way to play it if you're Bregman. But also, I don't make these decisions.
That's fair. I like where the Cubs are at. I'm kind of waiting on their season where they finally break through. I thought it was really big last season for them that they held on to Cody, but they ended up kind of having the same season that they did the year before, only went 83 and 79, and then lost them to the Yankees. But I think if you're the Cubs, you're just a couple pieces short from
Definitely
being the best team in that division. Because like you said, it's not that hard. You just got to kind of hope that the Brewers don't end up with 93 wins again somehow.
Yeah, with like a ragtag crew.
Yeah, exactly.
It's pretty funny how the Brewers tend to do that. I'm excited for
Chicago next year.
Yeah, me too. Next thing to talk about, Roki Sasaki. He brought his finalists down to 3 teams. Dodgers, Padres, Blue Jays. Now, the Blue Jays have by far, out of this group at least, the most international signing international bonus pool money. That's what it is. International bonus pool money. Blue Jays have by far the most out of these 3 to offer to Sasaki. But as we know, you can't trade for normal picks in the MLB. It's just not how it works. But you can trade for compensatory picks and international slots and international money. Expect the Dodgers and the Padres to both make small trades for lower, last guy on the roster kind of moves with somebody for international money by the end of the week. And if one of the teams does it over the other, expect that team probably has Roki Sasaki. That's how it looks right now. The Dodgers and the Padres, I believe, are in the lowest part of the international bonus pool money. And they're also two teams that have not really done much on an international signing standpoint for this year with an opening. Same with the Blue Jays. So it seems like all of them want to put all their eggs on Roki Sasaki and not really worry too much about this year's class of international signees that are eligible to be signed. I think, to me, Sasaki can't really go wrong here. The Blue Jays would be a weird pick in my eyes. But there's also, I think we talk about Dodgers, Padres, like having a lot of Japanese connections right now. The Blue Jays have some, like over time, guys like, I don't know if Hyunjin Ryu is Japanese. He may be Korean. I could have that mixed up. I'm just not sure. But like, you've had a lot of Japanese pitchers that have pitched for the Blue Jays over time. And that's just something that tends to be important to guys that are coming over, is having a franchise that's familiar with people from your country. It makes things more accessible, translators easier to find. Maybe there's already one in the organization. That kind of stuff is what they factor in more than just like, I want to go play for this team because they're going to win. It's not necessarily what all these guys are looking for. They want to be comfortable. I think that's an important part that people overlook. And that's one thing that the Dodgers and Padres offer.
Yeah. And just to kind of further that point, it's probably the first time that any of these kids have ever lived outside of their home country as well. So it makes
Roki
even
Sasaki
more
is like
sense.
23.
I like the Padres.
I would love him to go to the Padres. And obviously the Dodgers are always going to be the favorites to pick up any guy. But yeah, I think the Padres would be much more fun to see. Blue Jays, I don't really watch a ton of Blue Jays baseball, but the Padres and Dodgers definitely would tune in. Okay, next thing is about international signings. So this is a weird time of the year. So it just opened up. International prospect signings opened up. And this is kind of a weird time because casual MLB fans don't care at all. Diehards, for them, this is kind of like a little bit of just like a set it and forget it kind of thing. Like you're going out, you cash your line, you get some bites or whatever, but like you're not really paying attention. You're just waiting for something to happen. With these kinds of guys, like you get excited that your team signed a 16-year-old that lives in a shack in Venezuela. You get super excited about that. Then you forget about him. And then in 5 or 6 years, he's your number one prospect. And you bring him up in August when your team has 60 wins. And it's supposed to bring you a little bit of hope, a little bit of something to get excited about. And then maybe he turns into Ronald Acuna or Juan Soto. And in most cases, it probably jerks in Profar. Which, if you wait 10 years, if you're willing to wait 10 years, maybe it pays off. But
if you wait 10 years.
Or they turn into Wander Franco, which is maybe the worst of the
options. I really wanted to make that joke. I'm glad that you did first.
Yeah.
Domingo Germán.
Yep. Well, at least he got some good years in the league.
Yeah.
Still a bad guy. Perfect game. Can't take that from him.
Perfect game.
I would like to note, because I am one of the guys that does this. I do get excited about these guys, and then I forget about them for a couple years, and then they show up. It's awesome. Braves got a couple guys I love. 2 guys, top 12. Only team with 2 to sign 2 players in Fangraphs top 12 international prospects. You got 16-year-old Cuban outfielder Diego Torres. And we signed 15 players so far in this signing window. He is the only one that is not Dominican. And he's Cuban, and he left Cuba when he was like 13. So I don't even know where he's actually playing. He might be playing in the Dominican Republic, but he does not live in Cuba anymore, but he is a Cuban outfielder. Diego Torres, 5-tool player, switch hitter, power bat from both sides of the plate. That's you can't ask for more. It's literally like the best things. It's the best thing of like Ronald Acuna and Jose Ramirez is kind of what I've heard about this kid, which is unbelievable. This one though is way cooler. The Braves signed this kid for $1.8 million. 16-year-old Dominican Rowdy Manuel Reyes Abreu. He's a right-handed pitcher who had a growth spurt in the past year. And because of this growth spurt, he had to change up his mechanics a little bit. Reminder, he's 16 now. Last year, at 15 years old, he was throwing low to mid-90s. That you see that every now and then. I'm around the youth baseball world. You can see that. You don't often, okay? But from 15 to 16, he topped out at 102, and he's 6'3", 210 pounds.
Oh my fucking God.
Yeah. So all I'm hearing is that we've got the next Emmanuel Clase, and he's 16 years old. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one
like
definitely excited about him. And then I'll promptly, like I said, forget about him. And Rowdy Manuel Reyes Abreu. I cannot wait for 2029 when I get to start thinking about you when you make it to AAA. And then you'll finally.
His elbow is tissue paper.
Yeah. I can't wait for 2030, baby. It's going to be a great year when Rowdy's coming into the game in the 9th inning.
You know what? We will be there before you know it.
Yeah. So. It's scary. Very scary.
It is.
I don't even want to think about the fact that by the baseball season of 2030, I will be 27. Fuck that. Fuck that.
Yeah.
That's all I've got for baseball. Obviously, like I said, it's a boring part of the year. Not really any other way to put it. Here we go. Jesse Winker to the Mets. There you go. Anybody cares? I don't. Yeah, that's all that I've seen that's broken since I got this. Oh, here we go. Here's some info on the Jeff Hoffman signing for the Blue Jays. Apparently, because there was some reports that the Orioles and Braves had offered more money. Jeff Hoffman apparently went ahead and said both those teams pulled their deals. So that's why I went to the Blue Jays. And I love his Blue Jays deal. I don't think me and you got the chance to talk about it. But he's getting $11 million a year for 3 years. But every time he hits 60, 70, 80, and 90 innings pitched in a season, each one of those benchmarks is an extra $500,000 that year. And he can do it all 3 years. Yeah. So if they end up needing him to do, long relief or maybe get some spot starts every now and then, and he ends up accumulating a bunch of innings. Let's say he gets 80 innings pitched each year. There's an extra $1.5 million for him. So he's up to $12.5 million a year for 3 years. That's awesome.
And I feel like the Blue Jays are a team where he could definitely find himself in those positions as well. Their starting pitching is not there.
No, it's a mess. Often. Also, R.I.P. to Bob Uecker. That's a really sad one. He died at 90.
Long life.
Yeah, absolute dog, legendary broadcaster, and just lived and breathed Milwaukee. So shout out. Okay, yeah, that's the end of baseball here. So we'll take it across the pond. Premier League soccer to talk about, and I'm excited about the rest of this Premier League season because it's a race. I thought Liverpool was just gonna fly away, but there is a race to be had here, and I think obviously Liverpool does have a 4-point advantage over the rest of the league. But shout out to Nottingham Forest for getting that draw.
Oh, man.
A much-needed draw for everybody. Obviously, Nottingham Forest puts them in a weird spot because Arsenal got the win over Tottenham, but Nottingham Forest did their job for all of England with that draw. So shout out to them. That was awesome.
They had their work cut out. I mean, they were pretty much playing defense the entire game, essentially.
Yeah.
But yeah, that if you want to get some soccer chills sent down your spine as you're listening to this podcast, go look up Chris Wood's goal against Liverpool.
Yeah.
He tore the roof off that place. And what I forget about is, even though Nottingham Forest is I guess kind of considered a smaller team to people like you and I because we weren't, really around. Historic club, so they still have a pretty decent size stadium.
Yeah.
Not really comparatively, but it's an old ground.
Yeah, city ground.
Holds a decent amount of people. The city ground, yeah. And man, Chris Wood tore the roof off that place. And yeah, Liverpool since about turn of the new year have still looked good. I would still say they're the best team in the world, but a lot of these kind of smaller Premier League sides are kind of finding ways around their dominance.
Yeah,
I would say. So,
I agree with that. One more thing on the table that I just kind of caught my eye before we get into the matchups we want to talk about. Got to ask you about Chelsea. 5 straight weeks, no win. Coming off of 5 straight wins, you go draw, loss, loss, draw, draw. Okay, now, feel free to tell me I'm stupid, but kind of crazy that without Conference League in the middle of the week, Chelsea's been sucking.
Yeah.
It's kind of a weird conclusion I've drawn. I think it lined up pretty much perfectly where, they just started not winning games when they started taking this break from the Conference League play. I think they were just getting a lot of confidence midweek, clobbering these teams in the Conference League.
Yeah, it could be, but then again, you could always flip that and say that the team that's playing in the Conference League is not your Premier League team. Any player.
Very true.
Is not. You have a couple subs.
But sometimes it's the extra guys on the team that need the confidence. It's those guys that, maybe some rotational starters or maybe guys that are going to come off the bench in a game. They end up starting in those games that need that confidence boost of a win.
Yeah.
I just thought that was kind of interesting. Chelsea, not necessarily in free fall. They're still in 5th place. But you got to start figuring something out because now, you're only 2 points clear of Man City and Villa, 3 points clear of Bournemouth. A lot of things could be shaken up quickly if they don't figure something out.
Yeah, definitely. And we were lucky to even get the 2-2 draw last on a couple days ago against Bournemouth. It took a Reece James free kick that bounced before it even went in the goal to get us there in the 95th minute. So, I mean, thank God for it, but it's just it just looks poor right now, and it kind of seems like Nicholas Jackson is back to last season Nicholas Jackson, which is
you don't
not
want
what you need.
Not at all.
I don't know. To kind of keep it on the topic of Chelsea, Christopher Nkunku might be joining
gone.
Bayern.
Yeah.
Kind of so crazy. That might kind of hurt us in the Conference League, but I'm ready to get into these games.
Yeah, definitely. And you were just talking about Bournemouth. Newcastle's taking on Bournemouth this week. Big matchup. Newcastle found their way into the top 4 with Chelsea's form, and I guess with Newcastle's run of form as well, kind of coinciding. Newcastle's caught up. They overtake them in the table, now at 38 points for Newcastle. And Bournemouth, not necessarily on bad form, just a couple too many draws, maybe 4 draws in their last 6, 3 in their last 4. Not necessarily where you want to be, but also Bournemouth could very well be in 14th place right now. So I feel like you take that wherever you can. And Bournemouth is doing a great job. And they're playing well against good teams. I want to give them that love as well. Yes, it's not the best teams, but they're playing well against 3-0 over Manchester United was a great result.
Yeah.
And 2-2 with Chelsea is it's a good result, despite the fact that Chelsea's on bad form. Bournemouth isn't necessarily, it's not like, they're just on a run of beating the shit out of Ipswich, Leicester, and Southampton in 3 straight weeks. They're playing some good teams. And I think Newcastle is obviously on very good form. 6 straight wins coming off of, a run of form in late November into early December where we went loss, draw, loss to win 6 straight. Yes, Leicester and Ipswich, not the top tier talent, but a 3-0 win over Villa and a 2-0 win over Man U and a 2-1 win over Tottenham and a 3-0 win over Wolves, who were trying to make a shift in form and then ended up facing 2 teams in the top 4, which kind of ruined their run. But Newcastle's in the right place. Alexander Isak, 16 goals in his last 16 games. Unbelievable run that he is on right now. It's everything's rolling right now for Newcastle, which is awesome. But I'm really afraid of when that's going to end.
Yeah, and I don't think it's going to be Bournemouth that's going to end it for you guys. I'm going to go ahead and give a 3-1 result from Newcastle. I don't see Bournemouth scoring.
No.
I don't see Bournemouth keeping up with Newcastle score-wise. Isak has been on an absolute tear. Even into January too. The year change did not stop. What he's been able to do at all. And really, just Newcastle's attack looks really good, and their defense is solid.
Yeah.
It really doesn't seem to matter what goalie they play either. I would say, though, that probably Dubravka is probably your best option at this point. But I don't think Bournemouth's going to be able to keep up with what Newcastle's been able to do offensively. So Newcastle 3-1.
Yeah, that's kind of my opinion as well. The defense has been pretty sound, which I'm happy with considering the injuries. But that offense, obviously, I'll keep saying it. I was wishing Jacob Murphy would come back healthy for so long, because I needed Miguel Almiron out of this lineup. And I'm so glad he has made me look so right. Oh, my God. That front three, obviously, we know Isak's gotten, on a good run of form, and it's kind of coincided with Jacob Murphy getting back into the team. But Anthony Gordon's been scoring more, too. And obviously, Jacob Murphy's scoring and assisting goals. It opens the door so much. Bruno doesn't have to do as much in the midfield when you have that kind of playmaking from your attackers. And Tonali can kind of sit back a lot more rather than having to make runs up the field to give goal-scoring contributions, or at least try and set up goal-scoring contributions. It takes the burden off of everybody behind them when that attack is running the way it is, and I think it's helping everybody. That's why the defense has looked better, despite the fact that we're having injuries, is that they're not having to do as much work. It's not like Miguel Almiron runs down the field and fucking shoots wide, and then all of a sudden we don't have the ball again. And the same goes for Anthony Gordon. He was taking bad shots as well when Almiron was in the lineup, just because they couldn't create anything. And it's just one big shift in this team, in the attack especially, and everything starts going right. I love it, and I would love for it to continue. I think it does continue this week. I'm going to go 2-0 over Bournemouth. I do think Bournemouth has a great defense. We've talked about it a lot. I don't trust the offense to score enough, and I do think Newcastle has a good enough defense still to hold them scoreless.
Yeah, and on that point, shout out Jacob Murphy for sending Miguel Almiron back to the A.
Yeah.
Thank him enough for that.
Yeah, it was awesome. All right, next match.
It looks like it might happen.
Yeah, it might actually happen.
News for Miguel Almiron might come back to Atlanta United.
Yeah. Okay, Arsenal, Aston Villa. Arsenal's second in the table, obviously kind of flying right now. You have the draw with Brighton, which is questionable behavior. We'll talk about Brighton. But I think right now Villa is certainly turning things around. Obviously, I know the last 2 wins are against Leicester and Everton, but you lay the groundwork when you start beating those teams. It's much better than a bunch of a run of form with draws with these lower half teams. when you just beat the bad teams and you get it over with, it makes you look a lot better going into other matches and bigger matches. And this is just about as big as it gets if you're Aston Villa. You need points right now. 35 points, you're in a great spot. If you lose and maybe Bournemouth captures a win or Man City, who's playing Ipswich, captures a win, all of a sudden things get out of reach. And right now, sitting one spot out of a spot in Europe, while Manchester City sits in the Conference League spot, Aston Villa wants points here. You essentially need points if you want to keep up with Manchester City and the likes of Chelsea right ahead of them. You want to stay in this conversation, and unfortunately, you have to do this at a time where you have to play Arsenal. That's kind of the biggest problem that Aston Villa's run into.
Yeah, I appreciate you giving Aston Villa their flowers. I'm not going to be the one to give it to them. The win over Everton was only 1-0.
Yes.
Right. I don't know what their previous win was, but I know that they drew the game before that. So they've had 3 match weeks without a loss, which is great for them. But on Tuesday, Wednesday, you're going to be back in the Champions League, which I think is the whole thing that has derailed your Premier League season.
Agreed.
So, you're probably going to, I would imagine, play your best squad against Arsenal. What are they going to look like in the Champions League? And how does that play on your head for this weekend game against Arsenal? And I don't think Aston Villa the entire season have done a good job. They haven't proved to me that they can do both. So, I don't know. Like, maybe they can have a good result against Arsenal this week, but I think going forward, it's going to be really hard. Now, going, just back to this game and not, worrying about the Champions League whatsoever, you're still about to play Arsenal.
Yeah.
So it's, I don't know. I just think, I think Villa is probably fucked.
Amongst top 10 teams in the Premier League right now, Villa's the only one that has allowed more than 30 goals. The only other one that's even in the 30s is Fulham in their 10th, and they've allowed 30 goals. Aston Villa's allowed 32 goals. They are also the only team in the top 11 with a negative goal differential at -1. They score goals just fine, but the defense is not good enough to beat Arsenal. That's the biggest issue. They're still allowing goals. Yes, we talked about these last 2 games. Whatever. It's bottom of the table, guys. There's a reason they're at the bottom. They can't score goals. They allow goals to the teams that can score them, and Arsenal can definitely score goals, especially right now. I'm going to go Arsenal 3-1 over Villa. I do think Villa can score goals as well. It's just, I think Arsenal just pulls away.
I'm going to go Arsenal 2-0. Villa can score goals, but you've kind of had Ollie Watkins look a little bit shaky.
Mm-hmm.
Johan Duran carried them in the Champions League for sure, but in the Premier League, I don't think he's been all that great. He's probably not even a top 10 striker in the Premier League. And you're playing against the likes of Gabriel and the rest of that Arsenal defense. So I think they're going to struggle. 2-0 Arsenal over Villa.
Okay, next match, Manchester United versus Brighton. 2 teams that certainly could always use a win. Both of them coming off of wins, actually. And Brighton's form, very interesting right now. You have 4 straight draws that lead into a win. Obviously, the win over Ipswich isn't great, but those 4 straight draws, West Ham, Brentford, Villa, and then Arsenal. And you get the win over Ipswich. It does seem like it's a bit of a turnaround, but it's not great. Like they're not. It's not like they're in great form. It's just better than it was with that win. Manchester United. Maybe you say they're turning things around. Maybe you say they played Southampton last week. Like that's, or at least sorry, they played Southampton today and beat the brakes off them 3-1. But the draw versus Liverpool was pretty lucky. I know that, but like still, Manchester United is tactically improved. Player performance wise, it's just not. The players haven't stepped up in Amorim's system at all.
I agree.
You
You also had a mod score a hat trick somehow.
Yeah.
Against Southampton, the only 3 goals was from him, and then Southampton's only goal was a Manuel Ugarte own goal.
Well, that sounds like the only way Southampton could score right now.
it's like you get like a solid win over Southampton, but like I think if you're Manchester United, first of all, you would like to see more goal contributions from probably other players. Great for him,
Yeah.
to get a hat trick. A fantastic performance, but it's just like this is Southampton and only one guy scoring.
Yeah, and for Manchester United, when you look at the teams behind them right now in West Ham and Tottenham, there's a pretty good chance that either the winner of West Ham Crystal Palace passes them if they lose this week, or if they draw, they'd be even on points. If Manchester United loses, West Ham or Crystal Palace, as long as they don't draw, one of them will pass Manchester United. If Tottenham beats Everton, which should happen, they'll pass them as well. Manchester United can find themselves in 14th place this week. That's a problem. 14th place, and you'd be even on points with the loser, or if West Ham loses, you'd be even on points with them. Huge problem if you're Manchester United.
I feel like the entire time we have been doing this podcast and the topic of Manchester United has come up, you and I just have no idea what the fuck is going on.
Yeah.
And who does?
Well,
Nobody.
even if you go back to when we first started, we're like, what the fuck is going on? Why is Marcus Rashford like the best player in the world?
Yeah. Yeah.
So weird.
It's insane.
It's been so weird.
And like even I can remember the season where they signed Di Maria. I feel like I referenced this a lot on the podcast, and I remember that season being pretty bad as well.
Mm-hmm.
Grayson, I don't ever remember them being 14th in my lifetime. They were bad.
Bad was fucking 7th place.
This is a different level. Like you have an injured team, a managerial change, like at the beginning of the season, essentially.
Yeah.
Not even halfway to the halfway point. Did I already say injuries?
Yes.
Anyway, just there's a lot of factors. Like you said, players not playing up to this new system, although it looks better. It's a struggle. You have signings that are just like, they're so exciting at Bologna, like Xerxes was, and then they come here and it's the Premier League. It's just they seem to, everywhere they look is failure.
Yeah.
And everything they try is failing.
I'm going to give them a tip real quick. Look, I know I got excited about both of these signings, but maybe, just maybe, young strikers from bad Serie A teams, not the way to go.
Yeah.
Back-to-back summers. Højlund and Xerxes. Not much to present there for either of them. But, yeah, in this matchup, I feel like, obviously, Brighton... It seems better. Even though they're not playing that well, they seem better than Manchester United. They also need the points. If a team like Fulham, who's playing Leicester, who's the worst team on form right now in the league, Fulham probably gets a win, they pass Brighton. If Brighton doesn't get a win, even if they draw, they get passed, and Brighton finds themselves in 10th, which is just not where a team with this kind of talent should find themselves. But I guess you could say the same for Man United and Tottenham, who are lower.
Let me, according to Google, Manchester United, they lined up against Southampton. I'm going to run through this very quickly.
Yeah.
Onana, obviously. Back three of Euro, De Ligt, and Martinez. I like that back three.
I like that as well.
Some solid guys there. You had left and right wing back of Mazraoui and Diallo, who scored the hat trick from left wing back.
Mm-hmm.
And then your two center mids, Ugarte and Kobe Mainu, because he's been back. Then you have Bruno and Garnacho out on this island by themselves, which I'm sure it didn't really line up that way. And then Rasmus Højlund.
Yeah.
Also, again, on an island by himself.
I'm pulling up the squad right now.
What this tells me, and I hate to take away from the hat trick of Amad Diallo, but there's no way that he should have been able to score those 3 goals.
So I will say this. Amad Diallo typically plays right wing. I would assume tactically the idea was that Amad is still playing right wing and Ugarte slides to cover his spot as a defensive midfielder. If I had to guess, and Lenny Yoro probably the fastest of that back three. Makes sense on the right side. So him and Ugarte kind of fill the defensive role of Ahmad, and then Ahmad gets to play upfield. If I had to guess, that makes the most sense, especially when you have the way I'm seeing it set up was Fernandez and Garnacho as like attacking midfielders, right and left respectively, and then Højlund solo up front is the way that I see it set up. Obviously, neither of us got to watch this game, but if I had to guess, Ahmad still played upfield. And then Garnacho probably went more wide and allowed Mezraoui to stay back because Manu does like to cover the center part of the field pretty well.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to give a score prediction.
Yeah.
All of that to say 1-0 Brighton.
See, I don't trust Manchester United to win a match, but I also don't trust Brighton to either. I'm going to go with a 1-1 draw. It's boring, but actually 0-0 draw.
0-0. Okay.
Yeah, more boring.
No goals.
Yeah, I don't trust either of these teams to score, despite Manchester United coming off of 3 goals.
Also, relatively a quick turnaround for United, too, playing on a Thursday. And then, this game is the
Sunday.
Weekend game? Sunday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They gave them a little bit of time. Most people played Tuesday or Wednesday this week.
Yeah.
And then we'll play Saturday, so still a quick turnaround for just about anybody. Rest of the schedule for the week. Saturday, you've got Newcastle-Bournemouth, first game of the week at 7:30. Then your 10 o'clock games, Brentford-Liverpool, Leicester-Fulham, and West Ham-Crystal Palace. And then this one's fun. Arsenal-Aston Villa at 12:30 is on NBC. So nationally televised game there all across the United States. You don't even need special cable. Sunday's games, you got Everton Spurs, Man United Brighton, Nottingham Forest Southampton, and Ipswich Man City. And then Monday, you've got Chelsea Wolves. Yeah, not a bad weekend in the Premier League this week.
I'm really excited about Chelsea having a lot of time off and playing Wolves. I think, kind of like with what you mentioned earlier, you can build some confidence playing the shit teams. And I think that's what Chelsea has the opportunity to do. But there's one thing I wanted to talk about before we moved on to the Champions League.
Yeah.
How about Plymouth Argyle in the FA Cup beating Brentford in the 3rd round?
Yeah.
That was insane. I don't know if you've ever heard of The Life of Pi on YouTube. He films with the Sidemen sometimes. Pie Face, Pi. Yeah. He is a huge Plymouth Argyle fan.
Nice.
And what's interesting about this FA Cup win for Argyle is they're in the championship. They're 24th in the championship.
Damn.
And then they beat Brentford on an away day.
Yeah.
In the FA Cup. And from his vlog, those Plymouth Argyle fans, they only took up like a small corner of Brentford Stadium, but they were rocking the entire game.
Awesome.
And it was so fun to watch. So shout out Plymouth Argyle because they've had a rough season.
Yeah,
but that's
I'm trying to think if I'm thinking of the right team. Is their badge like a blue thing with a star? Is that right?
No, that's
Is that
Portsmouth. Portsmouth?
I think you're right.
Portsmouth. Plymouth Argyle is green with like a ship.
Yep, I know that one. I recognize it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Fantastic win.
Yeah.
It's only leg 1 though. I think there's 2 legs.
The 3rd round, it should just be 1 game.
Oh, is it? Okay. Oh, no, I was thinking the Carabao Cup's 2 legs. Sorry. Because they're into the quarters, semis maybe. Okay. Nonetheless, we are into match day 7 in the Champions League. The long-awaited match day 7. It's been a long break since we saw some Champions League soccer, and I'm excited to get into it. It's kind of like almost weird to talk about because all these teams are so like removed from what we have seen. So their form is pretty dependent on what they've done in their domestic leagues and domestic tournaments that have been being played throughout this time frame. You got Atalanta and Sturm Graz, boring ass game to start things off, as well as Monaco Aston Villa, which might be pretty good. I will say Monaco been in a little bit of a free fall. We remember just a couple weeks in, I think 4 match days in, Monaco was a top 3 team in the table. Now Monaco is sitting in 16th. So almost out of that that higher seed in the knockout phase. So that could certainly cause some problems if you're Monaco. You want to stay up top, but 2 straight losses being to Benfica and Arsenal is tough. But Aston Villa, a team that, like we've talked about, their form has either been good in the Prem or good in the Champions League, but not both.
Yep.
And you'll just kind of have to see what version of them you get, but it is in Monaco, which does play in their favor. Next game, you got Bratislava and Stuttgart. You got Club Brugge, Juventus. And then Atleti versus Leverkusen could be interesting. Obviously, Leverkusen looking for points wherever they can find them right now. As the number 4 team in the table. They've absolutely killed it. After what was a bit of an odd start for this team, they've certainly found their footing. And with 2 straight wins, they are definitely in business here. And Atleti, kind of a similar case, 3 straight wins, but a bad start in the Champions League finds them in 11th place. But you're right behind Bayern. You're even on points with Bayern, Dortmund, and Milan, or AC Milan, that is. So not a bad spot to be in. You're a high seed in the knockout phase, but you'd obviously love to just get that skip straight to the round of 16. So a win here would definitely help your seeding for that. Because there's a lot of teams with 13 points. From 3 to 8 is 13 points, and then that 9 through 12 is 12 points, which is where Athletic finds themselves. So a lot of movement that could definitely see. In case anybody is wondering, they have this simulate results option on the Champions League's website, where
no way.
Yeah, you can go through and see how the seeding changes for everything. Based on the results that you enter. So if you were to make these predictions, you would see exactly how it seeds out, which is pretty cool. It's really cool. Shout out the Champions League for putting in that feature. It's awesome. I kind of fucked around with it earlier, but I didn't take it seriously or anything. Yeah, Atleti versus Leverkusen could definitely be a very fun matchup to watch. Benfica Barcelona definitely could as well. 2 teams that are just scoring a lot of goals. Obviously,
Barcelona
maybe
been on fire too.
Yeah, a big win in El Clasico the other day.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's definitely a fun one to look at.
That was a Super Copa? El
Yeah,
Clasico, right?
I think maybe the Copa del Rey. I don't know. I can't keep up with
Super Copa de España.
Gotcha. I knew that they had 2 domestic tournaments. I couldn't remember what they were. But yeah, Barcelona, number 2 in the table. Believe they've clinched a spot in the knockout phase. I don't know if they've necessarily clinched a spot that gets them straight to the round of 16. I don't think they have. But I could definitely be wrong about that, honestly.
But they're our second place team in the table, right?
Yes, they are our second place team in the table. Actually, let's see. Yeah, I don't know. I have no idea. I can't figure this out. If I had figured it out before we sat down and did this, I could have given you an answer. But Barcelona, just know they've clinched something. I can say that with certainty. They've clinched something.
Yeah.
And then next games we've got after that, a couple of good ones as well. This Tuesday. Tuesday's got a pretty good schedule. Wednesday, not so much. Sorry, I lost my spot here. You got Liverpool-Lille, another big one. 2 teams that are up in the top. Obviously, Liverpool, number 1. They are yet to draw or lose. 6 straight wins in 6 matches here in the Champions League with 18 points. Lille, in that group of 13-point teams, find themselves at the very bottom of it at number 8. But looking to find points in any way possible. So even a draw would be a good result for Lille. Honestly, losing by 1 goal is probably a good result for Lille. But you won't get any points out of it.
Yeah.
And then you got Bologna versus Borussia Dortmund, which Dortmund's been in a kind of a tough spot for a while. They were up at the top, and then a loss in their last match plummeted them out of the top 8. So you would lose your spot to get you straight to the round of 16. And then you got Red Star Belgrade and PSV as well. Wednesday, not great matchups, honestly. Leipzig versus Sporting might be interesting. Sporting's been garbage, absolute garbage since Amorim left. So Leipzig might find a way to get some points, which they most definitely need. Shakhtar and Brest going head to head. Brest got a chance to keep themselves up near the top. They're 7th right now, and they have a relatively easy matchup. We'll see what they get out of it. Real Madrid versus Salzburg. Real Madrid, a team that's certainly underperformed in Champions League play. 20th right now in the table. They have less points than Club Brugge, Feyenoord, Sporting. That's kind of interesting to see. And then you got PSG, Man City, which could definitely be interesting. PSG being pretty active in the transfer window to this point. And Man City, fucking awful in all competitions.
Yeah. What I'm curious to see, and I think you'll be curious as well, is this run of form for Manchester City that's been divorcing if you're Pep Guardiola. It's been so bad. I wonder if it'll translate to the Champions League because they were relatively all right, when the Champions League
Their
kind of
last
ended,
3 matches, you have a 4-1 loss to Sporting, a 3-3 draw with Feyenoord, and a 2-0 loss to Juventus.
Okay, maybe I'm getting my time frames right. Forget everything I said. I just want everybody to know that Pep Guardiola's wife divorced him because he's a fucking crazy motherfucker.
Yeah, he is genuinely insane.
Yeah.
PSG finds themselves in 25th place. That is outside of moving on. They will be eliminated if they do not move out of this spot. And Manchester City only has 1 more point than them. But PSG, their run of form is even worse. They finished off with a win that was only their 2nd win of this Champions League campaign. They've lost 3 matches in the Champions League. It was to Bayern, Atleti, and Arsenal, which are obviously great teams. And so PSG is playing a tough-ass schedule, but you got to find points somewhere. Unfortunately, it's just how it goes.
If you're a team like PSG, you would, like you said, that is a hard schedule. You would like a win against one of those teams at least, though.
Yes, definitely.
You're still PSG.
Yeah. No, I definitely don't want to give them any excuses. They've got all the money in the world, and they're using it right now. But their remaining matches are Man City and Stuttgart. You have to get 6 points, if not 4.
Yeah.
You definitely 4 at the least. 6 would obviously be ideal. Because there's certainly teams ahead of you that can lose. Sporting, Feyenoord, Club Brugge, Celtic, PSV, Dynamo Zagreb. Like all those teams are ahead of you right now, and they're in the position to make a playoff spot. PSG is not. Then you kind of you look at the bums behind them. Leipzig, 34th. Leipzig can't make it out. In case anybody was wondering, they are eliminated. They just have to play these matches. One of 3 teams with 0 points in 6 matches. Unfucking real that Leipzig finds themselves in that position. Next match of note is there isn't one, but there is 5 more matches. Sparta Praha and Inter, Arsenal and Dinamo Zagreb, Celtic and Young Boys, Feyenoord and Bayern Munich, and AC Milan and Girona wrap up the schedule for Matchday 7. I think before
AC Milan, another team that would need some wins, right?
Yeah, they're in 12th right now. They would love to get a win to potentially put themselves straight to the round of 16. A loss isn't necessarily damning, but it would probably get you out of the seeded territory. So they're looking for a win or a draw at least. And Girona's a team you could definitely find those points against. Girona's only won 1 and lost 5 in this Champions League campaign.
Gotcha. Okay.
But yeah, that's the end of it for Champions League. I'll definitely go through and kind of mess around with the results simulator before we preview Matchday 8. But next week we'll recap the stuff, and then we've got the time off to get things in order. I think actually we get back-to-back weeks this week, so I'll put some work into it for next week. We do have back-to-back match days to wrap things up here. And my favorite thing about soccer, and they're doing it for the Champions League stage, is that everybody kicks off at the same time on the same day, on the last day of the league. And that's what we're getting. On January 29th, you have every single team which is, I believe, 15 matches. 16 matches. No, wait, am I dumb? 18 matches. 36 divided by 2 is 18. 18 matches kicking off, all at 3 p.m. On Wednesday, January 29th. So that'll be a very fun conclusion to keep up with, and I'll kind of go through some of the interesting scenarios that we could find before we get to that day. But for now, the end of Champions League brings us to everybody's favorite part of the show, at least everybody being me and Luke. I don't know if you guys think this is your favorite part of the show. If it is your favorite part of the show, let us know. And if it isn't, then you probably don't even know what the fuck I'm talking about. It's questions time. That's what we do here. We end the show with questions time. And Nathan has submitted us a couple of questions. Looks like 6 questions here for us. And we start here in a one that I already know my answer to just by reading this out in my head. Would you rather live in a fancy modern style house or a fancy rustic style house?
Modern.
Rustic. I would want some aspects of a modern house, obviously. But I think a rustic house looks amazing. Like, if I'm talking visuals, I want rustic. I don't want fucking sharp corners and, like...
Oh, yeah, baby.
I don't want all my cabinets to be like a flat surface. No, fuck that.
I do.
Fuck that. I want to live in like a refurbished house from like the early 1900s in the middle of nowhere. That's what I want. And that is rustic style for sure. But it will be like the nice end. Like, I'm not saying I'm going to live in a fucking, a log cabin. It's going to be like some real shit.
Okay.
I get the appeal of modern style houses, but like, I don't know.
Or you ever bought an apartment in GTA? That's what I want.
Dude, fuck that. I think me and you are very different about these kinds of things. Because we had the same discussion with like dream cars.
Yeah.
That was a big thing. I think me and you just see it differently.
Yeah. Different philosophies.
Yeah. Here, I'll ask this to add on to that question. If we're going modern style, what is going to be like the big thing that is like, what's the giveaway? What's the thing that is like the centerpiece of your home if you're going modern style?
A statue of Troy Polamalu.
That's pretty fucking sick.
With a fountain.
I can't argue that.
I don't know if I really have like a...
Because like I feel like in a modern house, like you got to have like a crazy art piece or something.
Yeah.
There's got to be some signature thing in a modern style house.
I've always thought like a painted ceiling would look really cool.
Interesting.
Like something really out there.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, I have to ask you this.
Maybe only like in
one
room of the house.
Yeah. Yeah, oh yeah, you're not going to be painting murals all over the house.
No.
Are you also going to have like is everything going to be modern style? Like, are you going to have like fucking weird plates and shit? That's something that pisses me off. Weird plates, weird like cutlery. Like, dude, what? Why are we eating on fucking like a black rectangular plate? What is this? Or like, why is this bowl a bubble?
I don't know. I kind of feel indifferent about that. Like, I think the cooler, like the unique like silverware, dishware is cool, but it would not be like a difference maker to me.
Yeah. These are the kinds of things I do. I talk about how I think about sports at night. When there's not sports to think about, I think about what my dream house looks like. And like to the point of like, what does my dining room table look like? Those are the kinds of things I think about.
Yeah.
It's like I feel like I probably compare the way that I go about thinking about what I want my home to look like as an adult to how a girl imagines her wedding. That's probably where I put that effort to, because I don't know what the fuck I want to do for my wedding. I don't have the first clue.
Yeah.
But my home, oh yeah. I'm not even joking. About 3 days ago, I was just sitting in here and like I felt like I just didn't really have much to do. I guess it wasn't 3 days ago because that was Monday. So must have been Tuesday. And I was like in between things and I was like, I should like draw out the floor plan for my dream house. I didn't do it, but I
What
was damn near close.
went into Google SketchUp and made your house?
Yeah, I might. I might
You
still
know
do
you
that.
know what Google SketchUp is, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I had to do that in middle school.
I went to we won the county and tech fair and went to the state tech fair in 4th grade. Me and Colby Pelfrey in Google
Shout out
SketchUp.
Colby.
We designed a whole house. And we got screwed in the state. This is fun lore here. We got screwed in the state one, and we only found out because we low key broke the rules by peeking around and looking at what somebody else had done for their
Oh.
design in Google SketchUp, which they just imported shit. They didn't make it themselves.
Oh.
And
Wow.
we were the only group, the only duo that made everything themselves. We found out everybody else was doing that. And the judges had no idea about the program at all. So they didn't even notice.
They're just looking at the Google
Yeah.
SketchUp.
Yeah. It's bullshit.
And that's fucked up.
Absolute bullshit.
That's a huge controversy.
Yeah. And also I had strep throat. Sucked.
Oh,
I couldn't even talk.
flu game.
Yeah. I had a flu game, but we lost.
Man.
But we came first place county.
And you weren't cheating.
Nope. And I didn't have strep. I was able to charm the judges. I did, dude. I was in there. Like, yeah, I helped with the designing. Like Colby was probably a little bit more on the creative side. I was in the room commanding the audience. That was my job.
Yeah.
Fitting, I guess. All right. We'll move on though. Would you rather be able to fly, but every time you fly, you're naked? Would you rather have laser vision, but it only activates when you cough or sneeze?
Ooh,
I have
I'll
no
fly
use
naked.
for laser vision.
Yeah, I'll fly naked.
Yeah.
If I fly high enough.
Yeah, exactly. The problem is the landing. You have to land somewhere remote and then walk. Unless you're just open to everybody seeing your piece. That's the other part.
You could fly with like a little backpack, like with your clothes in it. You know, like you said, land in the woods somewhere, change.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Or land on a roof.
Yeah, I have no use for laser vision.
Well, how would you get down? You'd have to get naked again to get down.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, laser vision is stupid.
It's useless. What the fuck? What am I,
Kill
like
my
a
enemies?
lumberjack? Like, what is this going to help me
That
with?
would be pretty helpful.
But then I'd have to cough or sneeze.
Yeah.
I'd rather just fly naked. I'll say it.
Yeah, like hernia check.
Yeah.
Cough right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll fly naked. Out of the free agents available, who do you want on your team, or who do you want your team to sign right now? Obviously in the MLB, that would be
Bregman. Easy.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty easy choice for you. I would like us to go get an outfielder because Ronald Acuna is apparently still 6 months from being ready to go.
Oh God.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, we got that update the other day. Jerks and Profar.
Has Santander?
No, Santander hasn't signed, but I feel like he's maybe a little too big money for us to go out and just get to like fill a spot. So I think Jerks and Profar, probably the guy I want signed. Also, relief pitching. Whoever's out there, Tanner Scott would be awesome.
Yeah, Clay Holmes.
Sure, fuck it.
No, is he signed?
I don't think so. Could be wrong.
Would you rather have Profar or Santander?
Santander,
Money aside.
1,000. Oh, yeah. If we're taking money aside, Santander 1,000 times out of 1,000. Otherwise, yeah, I'll take Profar for essentially 6 months, 5 months.
Yeah.
That's fine by me. What year range do you think someone will break Barry Bonds' record for home runs in a season? It said 5-year ranges only. So let's say it's 2025. So we'll say like 5 year. Well, I guess 5 years from now would not be the 2030 season, but you know what I mean. Well, 5 seasons from now.
Yeah.
But we'll say 2025 or 2026 to 2030 or 2031. Fuck, this sucks. Hold on. What's the easier way to word this? I think 2025 to 2030. Nope. 2025 to. I give up. Say something. I'm struggling. My brain's not working.
So I see what you're saying because like 2025 season, yeah.
There's 6 years. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it could happen 2026 to 2030, and if not then, it'll probably happen 2031 to 2035. I think, and it's a reoccurring topic that you and I have touched on throughout the entire time we've been doing this podcast. But athletes are just getting better.
Yeah, they
I think it'll happen pretty soon.
Yeah, it's interesting because for some sports, because the athletes are getting better, the records won't be broken. That's the weird thing, but I think the home run record is definitely one that could, but at the same time, like the stolen base one isn't, because nobody's gonna fucking steal bases like that. Ricky Henderson was doing some crazy shit.
R.I.P.
R.I.P. Ricky Henderson. And then like we talked about it with like football, it's like they have more games and all these things, but there's still a lot of records that are still in place for some reason or another. And I think it's just because the athletes are getting better, not just the ones that are trying to break the records, but the ones trying to stop them from doing it are getting better.
Yeah.
That's a big thing.
That's a good point.
But yeah, I think I would love to say it will happen in the next 5 years. It probably won't. I'm sure, I'll say the second half of the 2030s. So 2035 to 2039, somebody will do it.
Yeah.
That's what I'll say. Because I feel like that gives us a chance. We'll have a new, kind of a new age of players will come into the league at that point.
Yeah.
When we're looking, 10 years
and
down
we'll be
the road.
getting close to the 4-0 on the horizon.
Yeah. God, don't. Maybe, you know what? No. I take it back. Nobody's breaking the record. I don't want to think about when it's going to happen.
Yeah. Hang on. Something that just came to mind. This is not even sports related.
Don't care.
So 2 years ago, I think it was 2 years ago, my first cousin Jordan and his wife Kayla had a baby, right? Carmen, sweet baby, love Carmen. I was sitting in the living room with her, and I was just, I was just watching her, like do baby shit.
Yeah, as babies do.
As babies do. And I looked at my dad, and I was like, by the time she's my age, I will be in my 40s.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, that's kind of crazy. And then I just stepped away from Carmen to not remind myself of that anymore.
Yeah, don't. It's a slippery slope.
It is. It is.
It's like it's so weird to think about stuff like that because it's like I've got a young cousin and she's like pretty significantly younger than all of us, and when she graduates high school, I'm gonna be like 28.
Yeah.
29, I think. Fuck. That sucks to think about.
Yeah.
And that's not even old. That's like not even half of my life will have been lived at that point.
Yeah.
It's crazy to think about though.
It's wild, dude.
Yeah. I for some reason everything keeps getting like my age and like time that has passed keeps getting put into perspective for me. Like a friend of mine, we kind of have our core friend group. We've talked about like Jared and obviously Brock is a part of that, but like me, Jared, and I'll leave the other guy's name out. I don't know if he wants to just talk about it, but us three are kind of the core members of this group, at least like the OG members, and we realized that like we're going on like I think 8 years of like all being friends, which like doesn't seem like that much until you say that something that happened 7 years ago means that a third of our lives has been lived since that has happened.
Yeah.
That's fucking crazy. And that's the way that one of the guys
wild.
put it. And I was just like, don't say it like that. I already feel old enough when I'm talking about like when I was in college. That was like a month ago. And I already find myself saying these things.
Insane.
It's hilarious. Okay. Oh, this is fun. We were talking about non-sports. This is non-sports. What artist is going to have a breakout or comeback in 2025?
Ooh. Van Gogh's got to be up there. Let me see.
I'm trying to think because, like, I don't know who's gonna. Comeback is tough. I don't know who's.
So
I don't know who's out that's gonna try and get back in. That's where I'm at.
What I'm leaning towards is, and I'm about to disprove myself right after I say it, but what I'm leaning towards is Kanye, because people shit on Vultures 1 and 2. In 2025, he's supposed to have Vultures 3 and this new album, Bully, come out. But it seems like he's continuing with that kind of like experimental sound that we heard on Vultures 1 and 2.
Yeah.
So I imagine that even if Kanye releases another 2 albums in 2025, that being Vultures 3 and Bully, I don't think people are going to like them.
Probably not.
So I don't know, but like I think it's definitely, you can definitely say that Kanye is kind of like, hype I feel like is around him, but he's definitely out of like, he's not doing what Travis Scott's doing right now as far as being popular. He's not doing what Kendrick's doing right now as far as being popular. So I don't know, that's hard to fuck it. Bryson Tiller, 2025
Bryson
album.
Tiller comeback. That's crazy.
Bryson Tiller comeback.
Yeah, that might happen. I don't know, because like I've only really been listening to country music, and most of the country music I've been listening to is old country music. So like I'm not gonna fucking George Strait's not making a comeback. Like that's not happening.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think breakout. Like the thing is that the guys that I think of that are like coming up or like don't have enough attention are the guys that broke out this past year. I guess like this project is getting more love again, which is Leon Thomas. His album Mutt is getting a lot of appreciation kind of out of nowhere.
Yeah.
But like that album dropped like early last year, and like he got his love. I think he got like Grammy nominations. But I think people are like, that album came out in August, I think, or September. I recently just revisited it again. I listened to it when it first came out. I really liked it. Fantastic R&B album. I think it's probably the best R&B album that came out this year. I also haven't listened to that much R&B this year, but Leon Thomas's album is fucking awesome. And I think he's a guy that could have a breakout. Like I think you'll start seeing him like featured on stuff. That's what I would consider his breakout this year, is getting featured.
Okay.
And he probably won't drop another album because he dropped in September. But maybe he does. But otherwise, I think you see him get featured. You see him have some radio hits.
Yeah, I like that. That's a good take.
Yeah.
I think I've come up with my like real answer, and I'm gonna go with Playboi Carti. So obviously, I remember his first album when it came out.
Amazing.
I think it was 2017 or 18.
Amazing.
Amazing album. Then you had Die Lit, which I think was the year after. Die Lit was good.
I think Die Lit was
A Whole Lot of Red.
19.
Yeah, 2019. Because I remember it came out when I was taking.
Right.
Oh, it was 2018.
Yep. May of 2018.
Okay.
Hey, fun
Whole lot of
fact,
red.
full circle moment here. Bryson Tiller was featured on that album.
What song
I can't remember,
was
but
that?
I know that I remember seeing his name on there. Fell in Love. Yeah,
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's a good feature too.
it is.
All of this I'm trying to say is I cannot remember a time when those albums came out, even when a Whole Lot of Red came out, nobody was saying that nobody was mentioning the best in the game and Playboy Cardi in the same breath. Now they are.
Yeah.
And he has
Uh,
this new album that's I think heavily produced again by Kanye West. And a lot of people are excited about it.
yes.
So I would say that 2025, I feel like Playboy Cardi already popular. He's already in the public
Yes.
eye and everybody's mouth. But 2025, if he comes out with an album and it's good, it'll explode.
I think
It'll
the
be
big thing
ridiculous.
is maybe it's more of like a comeback. Obviously, he's gone nowhere. He still has put out music. You can have your opinions, and you could also say that he's not putting out music because he's not that much. I think the
Yeah,
last full length project was Whole Lot of Red, and people at the mainstream didn't like Whole Lot of Red.
I
I
didn't like
think
Whole Lotta
his
Red.
comeback this year is to mainstream popularity. Obviously, there are so many guys still listening to Playboy Cardi. There are so many people that still love the music he's making right now. I don't mind
For
it.
sure.
I don't seek it out.
Yeah.
And I think this would be the type of the time for him to like have a comeback to the mainstream. Because I also think that the style of music that he makes is more liked now. He just hasn't dropped.
Yeah.
Like all these guys that are part of like Opium and like all this stuff. I feel like such a fucking idiot saying this stuff right now. All these guys that are part of Opium that have been dropping this whole time while he hasn't dropped are getting a lot of love from maybe not the mainstream, but like rap music fans. And like they're making new fans out of people that wouldn't have traditionally listened or didn't listen to like Whole Lot of Red and projects like it.
Yeah.
Now there is, I think, more of an appetite for his kind of music, and he's just not dropping. So I
Yeah.
really like that take. I really do.
But I think it's he's not dropping more out of I think there's a couple things. One, he could just be trying to build it up,
Yeah.
build up the
Well,
hype because he's been out in
but
public
he
and
he
shit.
does he does shit that like gets his fans pissed. Like it's not even like he
That is
gets them
true.
excited. He gets them pissed off because like he does everything where it's like he's gonna drop and then he just doesn't.
Yeah. And to that point though, a lot of it could be because Kanye has his hands on the album, and Kanye
Yeah,
kind of
we
does the
know how
same thing.
Kanye does it. That's
So
fair.
I think it's probably just out of perfection. But have you heard "Timeless," the
Maybe.
song with him in The Weekend?
Yeah, I think so.
You need to listen to that after we're done recording if you haven't, because that's it's probably my favorite Playboy Cardi song that's come out since Die Lit, which says a lot. That's a long time.
Hmm.
It's like 6 years.
Yeah.
So yeah. Anyway, we talked about that for a while.
Yeah, it was a fun discussion. One more question here
Yeah.
for questions time. Who are your top three way too early favorites for NFL MVP next year? No quarterbacks.
Derrick Henry, one.
For next, okay, next year. Uh, I don't think Saquon does the same thing next year. I think I
A
can
very good
say
point.
that. I'll say Bijan. I think Bijan's gonna have to do a lot of work next year.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not like a to shit on Penix. I just think that we're not gonna be throwing the ball like we were with Kirk, and that
Yeah.
deflated Bijan's numbers. I think Bijan ends up doing a lot more work next year.
So we're. Oh, never mind. Derrick Henry, no. No, I misheard the question.
Yeah, we're talking about
Um,
favorites for next year's MVP.
Way too early. No quarterbacks. Got
Yeah.
it. Bijan is a crazy pick, but I love it. He is, I would say, my favorite non-Steeler to watch play football.
He's so much fun.
He is just an athlete,
Yeah.
just a sick player.
It's really hard to go with a wide receiver here.
I don't think so.
It's just like running backs don't win it. It's really just a quarterback award recently. Wide receivers really don't win this award.
No, that is a good point. But Jamar Chase with no T Higgins.
Yeah.
What is that gonna look like?
Well, he might just have Justin Jefferson. Who knows?
Oh my god.
You know how badly it would tank those two's individual numbers to be on the same team? I know that doesn't matter, but
imagine the wins though.
Yeah. Like how you know how difficult it would be to like take one of those guys in fantasy?
Yeah.
Like I feel like the only sure pick there would just be take Joe Burrow.
Yeah. Okay, I like the back and forth that we're doing. So you said Bijan, I said Jamar. What do you think?
Oh, fuck. I gotta think about these teams and what they'll look like next year. That's the big change.
Okay, I got my next one.
I'm gonna go with Kyron Williams.
Ooh, yeah, that's a good one. I'm gonna take Jameer.
Yeah. The only problem is, like, is Montgomery still gonna be around?
They have to phase him out at some point.
Yeah, that's fair. And he's gonna get surgery after the season's over, so maybe he misses the first couple months.
Yeah,
just depends. It's tough when you can't say a quarterback. Trying to think of a wide receiver that I think would be a good choice.
Is there anybody on the defense that you're thinking about?
Fuck, it's even harder on defense. Like, it's hard enough to win it as a running back or a wide receiver, but defense, man, they get no love.
No.
I feel like there's a lot of guys we're yet to see the best of. Especially on the defensive side. Like, and I'm not saying this for MVP. Nolan Smith has been awesome for the Eagles this year, but nobody really talks about him, about how good of an edge rusher he is.
Yeah.
He's a guy that, like, at least for Defensive Player of the Year, I'm thinking about next year.
Dang, that's a take.
Yeah. Yeah. It's pretty, it's out there, but I think he's a guy that you should have your eyes on.
For sure. I don't like saying Justin Jefferson here just because I don't think Darnold gives him that volume that Burrow gives Jamar.
Agreed. And I don't think even if J.J. McCarthy's his quarterback next year, you're not going to get it.
Yeah. You know what? Fuck it. The Raiders are going to get a dog at quarterback in the draft, and Brock Bowers.
Brock Bowers was on the top of my mind.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of just a real fucking crazy one.
What about T. Higgins? Depending on
where he goes. What about Malik Neighbors? If they get a quarterback.
Yeah.
I feel like if they get a quarterback, who's to say he can't do the same shit Jamar Chase can?
Damn. Yeah, I mean, I think there's other variables.
Like definitely.
Bengals O-line versus Giants O-line, of course, and you know that. But I mean, they got a run game.
Yeah, run game's not bad. But then again, Jamar Chase put up those numbers with Chase Brown as his running back this year, and he had a great season.
Yeah, very true.
I don't know. It's interesting. A lot to think about there.
Is that our last question?
Yeah, that was our last question.
Oh, man.
Yeah, we used up plenty of time. I'll say that. We did a cool little 30-minute piece there for questions time.
Oh, wow. That's a long time for questions time.
Time flies during questions time. I will say that. I know, like, some people might, honestly, I wouldn't blame anybody that complains, because a lot of times we end up going like 40, 50 minutes sometimes on questions time. And it just kind of happens. The conversations just roll on. And it just sometimes slips away from us. But we'll call it a day there. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for listening. And thank you guys for subscribing if you're here on YouTube, liking the video, and commenting. Go ahead and comment your predictions for all all 4 games this weekend in the divisional round, and your Super Bowl champion. Go ahead, predict your Super Bowl champion as well. And then obviously join the second short subreddit r/2nd short, because if you do like a long questions time, feel free to submit your own questions and make it longer. That's more than welcome. And Nathan would also appreciate if somebody could, take a little bit of weight off his shoulders every week, even though it's not really that difficult. Me and Luke wrote our own questions for each other for months when we started this segment initially.
Oh my God, I forgot. That's how we used to do it, was write questions for each other.
We used to do one NFL, one MLB, one soccer question for each other every week. That was like, I think it might have been like, we started question time before we started doing video, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was, or maybe right after we started video. I think it might have been right after. Either way, we've been doing question time a long time, but for quite a while, the first few months of it, we were writing our own questions. And then Nathan started submitting questions for us, and now he does it every week. Yeah, if you guys want to contribute to questions, please join the second short subreddit. Obviously, follow us on Instagram. Stay up to date with everything we've got going on. And for the time being, go ahead and follow us on TikTok. I don't know if it's going to live to see another day, but who knows? Who knows? Shout out to the Chinese spy that has been putting together quite the algorithm for me. Shout out to you. Can't believe they're taking TikTok away from me. It takes up a lot of my screen time. I will say, I might be a changed man if TikTok is removed from my life. Genuinely.
Might be changed for the better.
Maybe. Or I'm just...
Reels has a grip of my balls.
See, I try to stay off Reels. Because Reels gets dark quick. I don't... Like, my TikTok algorithm is not showing me, like, gas stations exploding, just full of people. Like... Instagram Reels, it's like 3 swipes after like a video being like Brian Thomas Jr. should win Offensive Rookie of the Year. 2 swipes later, it's like a dude just getting stabbed in a video game. I hate Instagram Reels. So kind of hoping TikTok doesn't get banned. If it does, I don't know. Maybe I'll be better at this. Maybe I'll be better at podcasting if TikTok gets banned. I don't know. It's gonna hurt my ball knowledge. I get a lot of my thoughts, stats, things of that nature from TikTok, so it's gonna affect me a little bit. But I think we'll call it an episode right there. Luke, anything you've got for the people before we get out of here?
Yeah, I got a little fun fact from the Champions League website that I was reading through. Did you know, Grayson, that Madrid's Jude Bellingham became the youngest player to make 40 Champions League appearances match day 6, so the match day before this one that's coming up, at the age of 21 years and 164 days? Do you want to guess who he beat?
I'm trying to think of guys.
Another Real Madrid legend.
I'm thinking Cristiano, because he was probably playing Champions League matches at Man United first, but...
Well, he could have been playing them at Sporting.
That's true.
As well, too. But it's not Ronaldo.
Okay, but you said it is a Real Madrid legend.
Yes.
When
you think of this particular position for Real Madrid, there's only one player that comes to mind. Hopefully that rules it out.
Iker Casillas.
There you go. So he beat Iker Casillas by just a little over like 110 days.
Yeah, he is the only guy I think about at that position. Obviously, like Keylor Navas had some years, but...
Oh, yeah, I forgot about... Yeah, he was a dog. He won more Champions Leagues than Iker did.
That's true. Yeah, Iker Casillas definitely the guy at that position. All time.
Yeah. So there's my fun fact.
That was very fun. Shout out for the fun fact. Shout out to the Champions League. Okay, I think that's going to do it for us. Well, I will see you guys on Monday with our regularly scheduled Monday episode to recap all these NFL games this weekend, talk about any MLB stuff that happens, and to preview the College Football Playoff National Championship game. Prediction from you, Luke, since you won't be here on Monday's episode?
Not a score prediction, but I think Ohio State blows them out.
Yeah, I unfortunately think we're in agreement there, but you'll have to get my full take on Monday's episode. Okay.
I'm excited. I don't mind Ohio State at all. I
hate 'em.
think I've told you before. I think they produce a lot of fun NFL ready players.
Yeah, and I'll like them when they're in the NFL. That's the way I
That's
I
fair.
do like Jeremiah Smith. I can't stop myself from doing that. He's a fucking animal.
Yeah,
But
he is.
I'll see you guys on Monday. Luke, we'll see you guys right back here next Friday. And
Yes.
yeah, we'll catch you guys later. Peace.
Peace.